All right, coming in at number 10, we have the Winchester House, USA. After the death of her husband and child, Sarah Winchester, the wife of a rifle maker's son, consulted a seer who proclaimed her family had been killed by the ghosts of those who died of bullets from her family's guns. The seer suggested that only perpetual construction on the family's mansion could nullify these spirits. So that's what Sarah Winchester ordered. Workmen labored on the property every hour of every day for 38 years. The 160-room estate in San Jose, California was built entirely without the aid of blueprints, and it's truly bizarre. Some of the creepier features are staircases that lead nowhere, doors that open to brick walls or sudden 10-foot drops, and a window with an etched glass spiderweb motif. You definitely don't want to get lost in this maze of a house. Let's make our way over to Poveglia Island in Italy. In the South Lagoon between Venice and Lido sits the small Italian island of Poveglia. In 1348, the bubonic plague arrived in Venice and Poveglia Island became a quarantine colony. Venice exiled many of its symptom-bearing citizens there, where the dead and those too sick to protest were burned on giant pyres. In the late 1800s, the area's mentally ill resided in an asylum on Poveglia. There are rumors that in the 1930s, a doctor performed strange experiments on the patients here. Eventually, the doctor went mad and threw himself from the asylum's tall bell tower. Though the bell in the tower was removed decades ago, locals still claim to hear its chimes echo from the lonely island. Today, the entire island is abandoned. Locals and tourists are prohibited from visiting, and fishermen steer clear of the accursed place. Italian construction crews attempted to restore the former hospital building, but abruptly stopped without explanation, leaving locals to speculate that they were driven away by the island's dark forces. Next, we're going to be talking about Rainham Hall in England. Rainham Hall is an estate in Norfolk, England, haunted by the Brown Lady. The estate is supposedly haunted by Dorothy Townsend, who was abused by her husband, Viscount Townsend, in the early 1700s. According to the legend, Dorothy's husband married her in 1713, then locked her in Rainham Hall. He supposedly buried her alive in 1726. Her ghostly appearance on the property in the 1820s caused all the staff to permanently leave the estate. In 1936, two photographers captured the most famous ghost picture of all time, showing the Brown Lady on the oak staircase in the main hall. Photography experts say the photograph is genuine and there is no explanation for the apparition. All right, let's take a trip to the Lizzie Borden House, USA. Today, this allegedly haunted bed and breakfast in Fall River, Massachusetts is the site of a gruesome and highly publicized murder that occurred in 1892. Although she was acquitted, Lizzie Borden was suspected of murdering her father and stepmother with a hatchet in their unassuming home. Although there wasn't enough evidence to convict her at the time, suspicions of her guilt remained. Since then, guests have reported all manner of strange sightings in the house. For anyone intrigued by unsolved crimes and brave enough to risk an encounter with the supernatural, this is an ideal destination. All right, up next we have Casa Loma in Canada. From strange apparitions to spooky voices and unseen grabbing hands, Casa Loma Castle in Toronto, Ontario, Canada has more than its share of ghost stories. Staff and guests at the historic castle have shared enough stories of seeing a mysterious lady dressed in white on the second floor, hearing the mutters and sighs of a crotchety man near the stables, the appearance of a man tending to the gardens near the indoor conservatory, the sound of children's voices when no children are around, or the feeling of being grabbed or pulled in the tunnels leading to the stables. These and other paranormal experiences have gained the castle a reputation as a supernatural hotspot. The castle even offers ghost tours led by Canada's Most Haunted. Nature lovers might not be so in love with this one, Tao Don Park, Vietnam. Tao Don Park in Ho Chi Minh City is a paradise for those who love natural beauty in the day, taking walks amidst tropical trees, but by night, a different feeling overcomes the park. Considered one of Vietnam's most haunted spots, Tao Don Park is said to be haunted by a ghost who roams the park in search of his lover. According to a tale, the couple were enjoying a picnic more than a decade ago when they were attacked. The woman ran off and escaped, but her partner was killed trying to protect her. There are frequent reported sightings of the man wandering the park at dusk, there one moment and then mysteriously vanishing the next. Creepy, right? Alright, and coming in at number 4, we have the Akershus Fortress in Norway. This medieval castle once served as a defense stronghold for the city of Oslo, and it is rumored to be the most haunted place in Norway. The most popular sightings include a demon dog with glowing eyes that is said to guard the gates to the castle, as well as the ghost of a woman with no facial features who appears out of the darkness in a long robe. Used as a prison for Norway's most infamous criminals, the site of many World War II executions as well, the sounds of prison chains rattling can be heard around the property. Alright, let's take a trip to Hoia Baciu Forest, Romania. Known by many as the Bermuda Triangle of Romania, this forest is considered the most haunted in the world. Warped trees fill the forest, their skeletal figures twisting and spiraling, an eerie silence fills the air, interrupted only by the footsteps of unseen figures. Visitors often report intense feelings of anxiety and the feelings of being watched while traveling through the forest. Some of the most common sightings include ghosts, unexplained apparitions, faces appearing in photographs that were not visible with the naked eye, and even rumors of alien encounters. Alright, let's continue our journey with Lawang Sewu, Indonesia. The former railway building and World War II prison is believed to be the most haunted place in Indonesia. Among the many ghosts that have been reported here, the most popular are the Dutch woman, a headless spirit, and a kuntilanak, a female vampiric ghost in Malaysian and Indonesian mythology. It is here that prisoners and prisoners of war were tortured and hung from iron beams in the ceilings. It is rumored that guests who stand below these beams are in for a haunting experience. Many of the locals refuse to enter this house for fear of a ghost attaching themselves to them. They warn all those who wish to visit this building. However, this has never deterred the visitors. Visitors have reported hearing pained cries and anguished screams coming from the basement. And all the way down at number 1, today we have the Island of the Dolls in Mexico. Xochimilco, Mexico is primarily known for its Island of the Dolls. This tiny island is famous for the hundreds of decaying dolls and doll parts hanging from trees and scattered among the grass. Although it looks more like a horror movie set than anything else, the island used to be the actual residence of a now deceased man named Julian Santa Barrera. After finding a dead girl's body in a nearby canal, Barrera collected and displayed the toys in the hopes of warding off evil spirits. The disturbing sounds of crying children have been heard by those brave enough to venture the island. Alright, starting off our tour today, we have the St. Louis Cemetery. Locals, visitors, and paranormal investigators believe St. Louis Cemetery is one of the most haunted cemeteries in the world. Many ghosts haunt this famous graveyard in New Orleans, including Voodoo Queen Marie Laveau. Rumor has it she still grants wishes to those who scrawl 3 X's on her grave. Because most of the city is submerged in water, the dead are buried on top of the ground. Some visitors have heard eerie screams from inside the tombs and have been eyewitnesses to the ghosts of animals, including cats and dogs. Take a picture here and a strange orb or ghost may make an appearance in your photo. Alright, moving on to Salem Cemetery. Locals who visit Salem Cemetery in Hendersburg, Ohio, have seen the ghost of Louisa Fox, the first murdered citizen of Kirkwood Township. She has been seen crying at her grave and at the site of her murder. Hounds from hell are believed to roam and growl their way through this cemetery. Some people believe the ghost dogs exist to keep other ghosts from escaping. The next stop on our tour is the Gettysburg Cemetery. Phantom figures in both Union and Confederate uniforms still pace Gettysburg, Pennsylvania's battlefield and cemetery. The site of one of the deadliest battles in American history, a man seen wearing a black hat with a star often tries to converse with tourists and pose with families for photos. For the ultimate haunted experience, stay at the Farnsworth House Inn, where Confederate snipers hid during the battle and their ghosts still roam there today. Alright, next up we have Père Lachaise Cemetery. This cemetery has 300,000 graves, making it the largest cemetery in Paris. Opened in 1804, it's a beautiful place for visitors to take a stroll along the cobblestone paths to see the grave sites of Napoleonic-era generals, famous composers, and other luminaries, including author Oscar Wilde and Doors lead singer Jim Morrison. Visitors to the cemetery have even claimed to see Morrison's ghost loitering around his grave. Alright, moving on to Westminster Hall. In Baltimore, Maryland, Westminster Burial Ground is where the remains of famous people reside, including Edgar Allan Poe, Francis Scott Key, U.S. President James Buchanan, and soldiers from the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812. The catacombs under Westminster Hill have been the source of many ghostly tales. One old ghost story refers to a skull of a murdered minister that apparently screams all day and night. Rumors are that the skull was bound and gagged in a block of cement, but apparently that hasn't stopped the blood-curdling screams. And coming in at the halfway point, cemetery number 5 today is the Old Jewish Cemetery. The 12,000 headstones in the Old Jewish Cemetery are crumbling and covered with ivy, toppled and clustered together. This is Prague's oldest surviving Jewish cemetery in the city. The oldest burial date listed is 1439, though the cemetery was probably in use long before that, and the most recent burial was in 1787. Part of the cemetery was displaced for a new road, which meant that the dead and their headstones were exhumed and stuffed into empty spaces in the already crowded plots. It is speculated that as many as 100,000 individuals are buried beneath them, stacked 12 bodies deep in some places. Jewish customs forbid the removal of old graves, so the dead were simply piled on top of one another for centuries. Not surprisingly, it is considered a hotbed of paranormal activity. And the next stop on today's tour is Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. Located in Midlothian, Illinois, Bachelor's Grove Cemetery is rumored to be the scariest haunted cemetery in the Chicago area. This area was once a dumping ground for Chicago gangsters during the 1920s. For a number of years, witnesses have claimed to see ghosts and a phantom car that disappears along the turnpike near the graveyard. Not even daylight is safe. Violent cries of a small child are often heard in the evening. Up next, we have Highgate Cemetery. Highgate Cemetery in London is perhaps one of the most actively haunted cemeteries in England. With 50,000 graves on site, it's not a surprise why ghosts still roam this spooky spot and its underground catacombs. Ghost stories about the cemetery include tales of vampires who some claim drain the blood from dead animals found in the graveyard, and a woman with long gray hair who frantically searches for her deceased children. It is said that she herself murdered them many years ago. There are also rumors which continue to spread about seeing an imp-like creature, a ghostly bicycle rider, and a mysterious man walking around in a top hat. All right, let's make our way over to Chase Vault. If you're near Christchurch, Barbados, we suggest you check out the Chase Vault, best known for a widespread legend of mysterious moving coffins. According to the creepy tale, each time the heavily sealed vault was opened in the early 19th century for the burial of a family member, all of the lead coffins had changed positions. You can visit the infamous gravesite and determine if this tale is fact or fiction. And coming in at number 1 in today's video, we have Resurrection Cemetery. On the way to Chicago's Resurrection Cemetery, don't be surprised if you see a phantom hitchhiker named Bloody Mary, who asks for a ride to the graveyard but mysteriously vanishes into thin air when you reach the gates. Travelers may spot Thomas Milners and his sister Marlene on the side of the road covered in blood. The two were struck and killed by a car in 1959 while going home from a family burial. And if that's not bizarre enough, locals and visitors have claimed that they saw a vampire bride searching for her head in the cemetery. So be prepared for a few extraordinary paranormal experiences if you decide to visit. All right, starting off our tour today, we have the Lizzie Borden house. In 1892, Lizzie Borden was the main suspect for the axe murders of her father and stepmother. Borden was tried and acquitted of the murders, and guests who visit Lizzie's house in Fall River, Massachusetts, say she can be heard cackling around the property. Others say that you can sometimes hear a maid screaming for help, and that Lizzie's slaughtered parents still walk the grounds. You can experience the paranormal activity for yourself by visiting the Lizzie Borden house, which is now a museum and bed and breakfast. All right, our next stop is the Los Feliz Murder Mansion. During the mid-20th century, this was the home of Dr. Harold Perelson and his family until the horrific night of December 6, 1959, when he murdered his wife in her sleep and attempted to murder his 3 children before killing himself. Luckily, the eldest daughter let out a scream, waking up the younger children, who then ran to escape the same fate. 2 years later, it was sold to the Enrique family, who used it as a storage unit until it was sold to a couple in 2016 who apparently had plans to fix it up. But it seems to have scared them off somehow, because within just a few short years, it is now on the market again. This next location you may have heard of, as it's quite famous, the Jean Harlow House. In 1932, it was home to the iconic actress, of course, Jean Harlow, and her abusive husband, Paul Byrne, who shot himself in the head while standing in front of the mirror. Their butler discovered him and strangely called MGM instead of the police. So there were tons of rumors that it wasn't really a suicide. Many suspected Burns' ex-girlfriend, a suspicion that was exacerbated by her jumping off a boat to her death just a couple days later. The stories get creepier, okay? In 1963, celebrity hairstylist Jay Sebring bought the home and lived there with his girlfriend Sharon Tate until she left him. They were still friends and remained so until both of them were shockingly murdered by the Manson cult. When Tate had lived there, she told several friends that once when she was sleeping in the master bedroom alone, she saw a creepy little man. Her friends say she believed it to be Paul Burns' ghost. She was so freaked out that she ran out of the room and then saw a hanging, shadowy corpse with its throat slit in the hallway. There are also stories about 2 other people dying in the swimming pool over the years. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of paranormal activity, probably too much for my liking. Coming in at number 7, we have the Villisca Axe Murder House. On June 10, 1912, Josiah and Sarah Moore were bludgeoned to death inside of their home in Villisca, Iowa. Their 4 children and 2 friends who were spending the night were also killed, and to this day, the crime remains unsolved. Their home is considered one of the most haunted houses in the country, and guests are drawn to it from all over. Tours are even rumored to have been cut short by children's voices, falling lamps, moving ladders, and flying objects, says the Villisca Axe Murder House website. And in 2014, a paranormal investigator stabbed himself after spending the night. Skeptics have come and left believers, adds the website. All right, up next we have the Lemp Mansion. The Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, Missouri is known to be one of the most haunted places in America due to its tragic history. The 33-room home was built in the 1860s by William Lemp, a successful brewery owner who ended up killing himself in 1904 after the youngest of his 4 sons, Frederick, died. A few years later, his wife also died of cancer in the house. Then, in 1922, William Lemp Jr. shot himself in the same room that William Sr. killed himself. And as if it weren't enough tragedy for one place, in 1949, Charles Lemp, William's 3rd son, shot his dog in the basement of the home and then killed himself in his room. According to Destination America, witnesses have experienced burning sensations and slamming doors. And bringing us to the halfway point in our video today, we have 455A Sackett Street. 455A Sackett Street in Brooklyn is an apartment with a detailed history of creepy incidents. One woman who grew up there writes about her first-hand experiences, including unexplained fires, seriously bad energy, family tragedies, personal suffering, and here's the kicker: the body of a child discovered in the wall after several suspicious sightings of a similar-looking shadow child in the mirror. Next up on our tour, we have the Hotel Monte Vista. The Hotel Monte Vista, which opened as the Community Hotel in 1927, has a history of underground opium dens, speakeasies, and gambling. Today, the hotel is known for the paranormal activity that haunts some of the rooms and halls. Specifically, guests who have stayed in room 220 have experienced the TV changing channels on its own accord, and some have said they felt cold hands touching them in their sleep. There's also reportedly a phantom bellboy who knocks on doors and announces room service, but when guests get to the door, no one is there. One of the more popular and possibly most disturbing encounters is the sound of an infant crying in the basement. All right, moving on to Myrtle's Plantation. Rumored to be on top of a burial ground is the Myrtle's Plantation in Louisiana, which is the home to at least 12 different ghosts which have apparently been sighted. Constructed in 1796, ghost stories center around the tale of an enslaved woman named Chloe, who had her ear chopped off after she was reportedly caught eavesdropping on her masters. Seeking revenge, Chloe killed 2 of the master's daughters by poisoning a birthday cake. She was then hanged by her fellow enslaved people, and today is reportedly seen wandering the plantation with a turban to conceal her ear. All right, next up we have the Mizpah Hotel. In 1907, Mizpah Hotel opened as one of the first luxury hotels in Nevada. With a rich history and elaborate decor, the hotel is best known for its legend of the Lady in Red. A woman was murdered in her room on the 5th floor. Some say it was a jealous ex-boyfriend. Those who've stayed at the hotel say the Lady in Red whispers in men's ears and leaves pearls from her broken necklace on guests' pillows. And bringing us down to number 1 today, we have the Hotel Cecil. Now, more cursed than haunted, downtown LA's Hotel Cecil got such a bad rap that it actually changed its name to Stay on Main. The first recorded death by suicide was in 1931, followed by a long string of similar deaths. At some point in the 30s, one man was pinned to the exterior wall by a truck, a woman murdered her newborn in the building in 1944, and the pattern of suicides continued into the 60s. In 1962, a woman jumped from the 9th floor window and landed on a pedestrian, killing them both. In 1964, Goldie Osgood was brutally murdered, a crime that has remained unsolved till today. The weirdest is definitely the disappearance and death of 21-year-old traveler Elisa Lam. A few weeks after Lam went missing, her body was discovered in the rooftop water tank after visitors and tenants complained about a funky taste in the water. There's even a creepy Netflix documentary about it that you might want to check out for more detail.
And starting at number 10, we have the Mohata Palace. So this is the first place we're going to visit, and this was the summer house of a businessman, and it's said to be completely haunted by the ghosts since the British rule of the Indian subcontinent. So back in the year 1995, it was purchased by the government of Sindh, and they plan to convert it into a museum. Now, museum guides, they have reportedly seen various objects that have been moved from its original location or shifted in some way, while other security guards have said that they have felt the presence of certain spirits during the nighttime. At number 9 comes house number 39K PECHS. Now, if you were to hang around the streets of Block 6 at PECHS, you will see lights glowing around house number 39K. Now, it could be that somebody actually lives there, but most people, they really believe that they see this pale woman wearing a white dress walking around the street and then just disappearing around 3 a.m. in the morning. Now, honestly, 3 a.m. in the morning, really, you should be in bed at that time. What are you still doing up anyways? We all know about 3 a.m. what happens. Go to bed, and that way you won't be seeing any ladies in white dresses disappearing. That's a very valuable life lesson. 3 a.m. comes around, just go to bed. Okay, at number 8, we have the New Islamabad Airport. Many people claim that the New Islamabad International Airport that opened in 2018 is haunted as well, and this is surprising. So staff members of the airport, they have reported multiple incidents, and people have heard scary noises, and then they also claim that they've seen shadows of children playing on the runway. Some staff members even saw a scary looking creature one time at night, and they got so scared that some of them even fainted. So the airport is said to be built on a graveyard, so that's why it's haunted. And number 7 brings us the Buddhist graveyard. So this ancient Buddhist graveyard is located in the sector F7 of Islamabad, and it's famous for its paranormal activities. People have heard strange voices, they've heard people crying, they've heard footsteps in the area at nighttime, and the guards of the area also claim that this area is full of spirits. Nearby residents, they say that while they're passing through the graveyard, they actually continuously feel like they're being watched by somebody. Lok Virsa comes at number 6. I guess this is the world's most beautiful haunted road in Islamabad. There's a whole lot going on Lok Virsa. The place is super popular among a lot of people, and it's considered to be one of the most visited places in Islamabad. However, this beautiful place pretty much turns out to be a living horror movie. People claim that they see shadows by the road, and some people also say that they hear cries and screaming of people, sound like they're being tormented or something. Definitely not a place that you want to travel to by yourself. Shamshan Ghat is at number 5. The Shamshan Ghat, or crematory, is in the Hyderabad region of Pakistan, and many people claim that the spirits of the dead haunt the area. Now, it's a place where Hindu burning and burying rituals are performed, and Shamshan Ghat is about 250 years old. So if you really want to experience some creepy paranormal activity, this is a place to go. Guards as well as staff members have seen small children just come out of nowhere and start playing and making weird noises after sunset. Now, the children just come out of nowhere, and then they just disappear. Creepy, I know. At the number 4 spot is the Chowkhandi Graveyard. Okay, so another graveyard for you guys. Chowkhandi Graveyard is located in the National Highway of Karachi, Pakistan, and it's a among the most ancient graveyards in the entire country, around 600 years old as a matter of fact. And it's also considered to be one of the most haunted graveyards. Nobody visits it after sunset, which is when the hauntings really happen. According to people that live in the area, they hear people shouting as well as they see shadowy and ghostly figures. And this graveyard also does attract a lot of visitors though, but only during the daytime. Also it's reported that a lot of black magic is performed at this graveyard. We visit Lotus Lake at number 3. This lake is located in the Shakoparian. Now it gained a lot of popularity when several lives were lost in the area. Now the criminals used to actually leave the bodies by the lake, and that's the main reason why this place is haunted. Surprisingly though, this place was very beautiful and it was well kept back in the 1970s, but over time the Lotus Lake just was left unattended. Islamabad Cultural Complex was about to be constructed in the area, but work got halted for some unknown reasons, they say. Maybe they saw some ghosts and they're like, we ain't building nothing here, we don't care. Shah Aladita Caves comes in at number 2. That's 4. 2. So these caves are said to be about 700 years old, and the whole area is just totally creepy because it's just really old looking. It just looks old and creepy. People have heard noises in the caves at night, and the noises, they sound like a crowd of people all talking with each other, and the residents of the area have also seen dark shadows at night. So you're really advised to visit the Shah Aladita Caves during the daytime with some friends. Also, the hill park near the caves is said to be totally haunted as well. And the number 1 most haunted place in Pakistan is the Koh-i-Chiltan. According to the legend, it's considered to be haunted by the spirits of 40 babies. So the tallest peak in the Chiltan mountain range is a specific location of the haunting. So what happened was a couple once left 40 babies on the peak to survive on their own. And these babies can be heard crying at nighttime. The story goes like the couple was very, very poor and they had no children. So there was a son of a cleric that told the couple that he could help them. So he spent the night with them and blessed them, and they had 40 babies in total. So being unable to care for so many babies, the husband decided to leave 39 of them on the mountain, and the wife actually was carrying the 40th child, and when she came back to the place where they left the 39, she was so happy that they were still alive, so she left the 40th child with them to like run down real quick to tell her husband, but by the time they got back, they were all gone. Yeah. Weird. And now these babies can be heard crying at this location.